Good afternoon, members, officers, and the dozens, I should think, at the start of the meeting, of members of the public looking in on the meeting. Welcome to this edition of the Grants Advisory Committee. I'm Councillor Joe Hales, Chair of the Grants Committee. This is my colleague and Deputy, Councillor Sue Ellington. If I'm asking anyone who's joining us remotely who wants to speak and what have you, then can you keep your cameras off and your microphone off for the moment, and then when we call you, that'll be on that agenda item. Thank you very much. So I'll move to the main agenda. Number one, apologies for absence, Sarah. No, thank you, we're all here. Declarations of interest. This is to my councillor colleagues. If there's anything on the agenda that is of a conflict of interest or whatever, can you sing out? Yes. Councillor Hanley?
Non-pecuniary. One of the community chest applications is from an organisation in Willingham, which is in my ward, but I have no direct connection with them.
I can't think it's actually a conflict. Is it, Andy? Anyway. Yeah, but not duly noted. Thank you. Yeah. Over. Willingham. Sorry, Willingham. Yeah. Right, thank you very much. And number 3 is the minutes from the last meeting. Does anyone have any, go for the usual page 1, page 2. So page 1 and page 2. Thank you very much. Take that as a affirmation that they're okay. So much. Excuse me. Sarah, public questions? I'm surprised. We normally have several. Like it's, perhaps it's nearing the holiday season, so people are a bit more concerned about going abroad and getting their passports sorted out. Thank you very much. Right, okay, so the main event. Here we go. This is where the officers keep us out of the mire. Number 5, community chest funding applications. Is that your good self, Emma? Over to you then. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. So we've had 6 applications this month, 3 of which are biodiversity applications. Total applied for is £10,511.82. Just before I start, I'd just like to make you aware of a couple of previously deferred applications that have been funded in advance of today's meeting. So we have Climbridge, which was presented to you in March, and this has now been funded using last year's budget. We also have the Melbourne Fate Committee, which was presented to you in the April Grants Advisory Committee meeting. Both cases, the lead Cabinet Member for Resources was happy with the responses to the questions that we asked of them, and they've now been funded. So I'll just go straight on to page 9, which is Girton Bowls Club. So this one is a village-based outdoor bowls club formed in 2014. They've said that it's very important, as you can understand, that there's safe access to and from the bowls green, especially since the number of members and visitors are struggling to step on and off the bowling green. That's increasing. They've currently got a homemade step, which unfortunately is not adequate anymore. So as a result of this, they would like to purchase 2 new steps. You can see the pictures in the report there of what they look like. Total costs for both sets of steps are £1,660.20, including free delivery. Parish Council has contributed substantially to improvements at the club for the last 2 years. And this week we heard that they have approved £100 towards the steps. So the amount requested from the community chest is now £100 less than the total cost, and that is now £1,560.20. The old step will be properly recycled, and we have support from Councillor Richard Stobart. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Colleagues, I think the fact that the Parish Council have put in a substantial amount of money anyway in the previous 2 years, and they've also found another £100. So does anyone have anything to say, or should we Councillor Sanford?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm supportive. It's probably not good that your players trip over the steps and break legs in the middle of the game. Safer steps are definitely excellent idea. They're quite expensive, but I assume they're to the latest British standard or whatever. So yeah, I'd support.
They look like the steps have got that deck plate which doesn't slip. Councillor Renton.
Sorry. I feel if you're thinking of this as a bowling green, that is a beautiful area, a lovely area, and they are ugly, to put it fairly mildly. They may be conform to all the health and safety standards and all the rest of it, and I wouldn't stop them having them. I'm quite in favour of the idea of changing the other step because it does look a bit hairy. But I do feel that I'd want to dress that in something other than a big white metal lump.
Thank you, Councillor Renton. That was very informative. Obviously, your eye for artwork is greater than we first felt. Right. So, Emma, if you could put Councillor Renton into contact with the Girton Bowls Club to see if she could tart up their nice new steps that you won't slip on, would you be okay with that? Thank you.
I'll make them a quilt cover.
Or at least paint them green. No, yeah, I mean,
it would make the steps slippery then, wouldn't it, with the painted green? So it's not...
look, we need to get serious here. I mean, it's a health and safety thing, isn't it? I mean, they make eminent sense, and presumably they're portable as well. They'll put them away at the end of the game. So
I'm going to take it from that exchange that we've just had that we're all in support. Thank you very much. Emma.
Thank you. Page 11, Comberton United Football Club. They have 19 teams with over 300 players and 60 coaches. They formed in 1935, so they've been around for a long time. Games are played each week at the Comberton Recreation Grounds, and they're looking at new approaches to ensure all matches can be fitted in because it's quite tricky at the moment. So they would like to have some new roller goals that would help address this. Total costs for one set of 11v11 roller goals are £3,747.87, including VAT, plus delivery, and £2,000 has been requested from the community chest. They've got a football foundation grant for £1,440. That was confirmed in May. And the club have already raised £750 through the selling of refreshments at the season's matches. Parish Council already subsidised the maintenance and running costs of the pavilion building at the recreation ground. And they've also said that the green options, the movable goals means that they don't have to buy quite so many sets of goals, which is obviously better for the environment. They've said regarding storage, when they're not in use, they'll be locked up together by the pavilion, and there are CCTV cameras there. We have support from Councillor Dr. Lisa Redrup and Councillor Ariel Cullen. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. It's a shame we haven't got any pictures on this one because I suspect that Councillor Ellington would have something to say about the decoration of them as to whether they were suitably adorned. Right, colleagues, anyone got anything? Councillor Sanford?
Yes, Papworth's already got these movable goalposts, and they do allow much better efficient use to be made of the grass area. So yeah, they seem to work, and I'd support this application.
Thanks, Peter.
Agree. I was going to say exactly the same thing. Yeah, we've got them in over, and they are very useful. So yeah, I'm fully supportive. Yeah.
Again, it's a brilliant idea. So, are we all in agreement? Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Yes, thanks, Emma.
Thank you. Page 13, we have the Abington Allotment and Leisure Gardeners Association. This was formed in 2010, has 45 members. So all adult residents of Great Abington or Little Abington can rent plots for £30 a year. The site of the allotment includes a raised bed, which is accessible for cultivation by up to 4 gardeners with impaired mobility or who are obviously wheelchair users as well. But they've said that due to the heavy timber frame around the bed, this has basically deteriorated severely, so that, you know, it's falling to bits. And what they'd like to do is replace this. Total costs for the renovation project are £2,640.66, including VAT, and £2,000 has been requested from the community chest. There's a whole list of various items there that would help them build that. It's hoped that the £640.66 shortfall will be covered by both Great Abington Parish Council and Little Abington Parish Council. This is yet to be confirmed, so that's still on hold. Volunteer members of the Allotment Association will build the raised beds, which is fantastic. And we have support from both Councillor Henry Batchelor and John Batchelor. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Councillor Anley?
I think, as you know, I'm very keen on allotments. Just one question, and this is not meant to be a leading question at all. There is some money available for allotment societies at the moment from a different budget, I think, a different fund. I just asked the question, would it be better to take the money from that? But I suspect that since it's here, that's already been considered and a decision taken, but maybe Emma can help.
She stuck her finger up as you said it. Thanks.
Absolutely. We did look into this. It did obviously apply for the community chest, but just the grant that you're referring to is the allotment improvement grant that we've got, where people can apply for up to £10,000. Included in that is things that deliver measurable social benefits, such as promoting mental well-being, outdoor activity and community engagement, which would fit in with that. But this is obviously a lot of a lower cost that they're applying for, but also the timescales. The allotment improvement grants applications, I think they would be coming to Grants Advisory Committee in November, so that's obviously quite a few months from now. So we thought that we would obviously bring it to Grants Advisory Committee for comment, but that's just something to be aware of. Thank you.
Chair,
Thanks,
I'm happy with this.
Brilliant. Everybody else happy? It's another excellent one, isn't it? Thank you. Thanks, Emma.
Thank you. So leading on to our first biodiversity application on page 15, this is from Shed It. This is a community organisation formed in 2018 that organises activities aimed at reducing social isolation and promoting opportunities for social engagement, skill sharing and building friendships. There's currently 30 members. They've applied for a number of grants, as you are probably aware of, recently. But what they'd like to do at the moment to support their ongoing biodiversity projects, they'd like some larger shrubs and plants for the public spaces in the village, especially those that cannot be sourced locally from residents. What they'd like to do is link up these areas to create wildlife corridors. They'd also like to give out some wildflower seeds for residents to sow in their gardens. You've got some pictures there as well. Total costs are £1,835.62, all of which has been requested from the community chest. There's the list there. Swavesey Parish Council will provide between £300 and £650, depending on how much the sign ends up costing, which is all part of it. And like I said before, they've received community chest funding in the past. There was an amount of £1,314 back in March 22. That was a sustainability hub project. And then another village planting and rewilding project in January 2023. And then £850 for a reusing and repairing cost of living project for children in April 25. We have support from the Climate and Environment team on that one. I think it looks like a really good project. And also Parish Council and Councillor Sue Ellington. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. They've been busy, haven't they? She's actually really good. Yeah, it's not like a case of just leaving for one. They've got constant change of ideas. There's no declaration of interest here or anything like that from Sue. Do you want to say anything firstly?
Well,
since it's your ward.
I have supported it, and I've supported Shed It all the way through. And they, within the village, I haven't, but there's nothing that I have done that could be construed as me having a conflict of interest. Except when I looked at that wall that there's a picture of, I thought, that's the other side of my wall. And then I looked more carefully and it isn't, so that's all right too. The village has brightened up no end with a lot of wildflowers and plants and things in all sorts of odd places where they really needed just a little bit of tarting up. Of course, at the moment, we've got cable being put in one end of the village, water problems in the other end of the village, and in the middle, they're replacing all the gas. So all the curbs and all the bits of Swavesey are being dug up. So it'll be really nice for planting for next year. But at the moment, all is well, and I think this is a really good project.
Thank you. It's funny you should mention that, Wolves. I did think it looked rather nice, and I wondered if it could be yours, given the artwork. Anyway, that is something to consider, actually. If we're going to give money for a lovely load of planting and then the internet people come along and dig it up, or the water, we're not going to be particularly happy. Are these areas excluded from any work for, perhaps we could ask, that they don't plant until the work's done? So,
They have all promised that if they dig it up, they will replace it with similar. It is part of what we've agreed within the village.
okay. My heart tells me that's satisfactory. The other part of it, my heart is saying, since that we're spending public money to do this, if an agency comes along and digs it up, that they would make some reparation, not just making good, but because they will never ever make it good to the standard that the Shedit team or the local community team have done. They'll never ever be. We know that. The ground will sink. It'll be all sorts. They'll be doing it for months afterwards. So it would be perhaps make a contribution to the Shedit team after their work to make sure that they have enough funds to continue and materials to continue to put the ground back as the ground sinks and does what it does. So that's my personal feelings. I don't know if anyone else has got anything on this.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to add as a part of our...
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. It does concern me actually because you know this happens lots of places where we have fibre optic going in, and we've had considerable issues with a certain company within my ward about replacing what they've dug up. So I'm of a mind to suggest that we agree in principle to this, but hold fire until after the work's been done.
Chair, I agree with John Williams on that. I think it means the promise is there, that the money is there when they need it, but sorry, it's going to be spent responsibly.
Do you know what the timeline is for the work on the broadband?
The broadband is going in under the footpath and the sides of the road. I think quite a lot of this is about the odd spaces that there are around. And I think it would be reasonable to say that those that might be affected by the fibre should be left until it's through. But we seem to be in for a full summer of everywhere being dug up and nothing but traffic lights.
So if we go with what John just said just then, I think that's fair. But if we could put our feelings down that the utility companies should make reparation, not just to put the wild seeds back or whatever plants were there and all the rest of it, but to actually make a contribution which is enough to see out the season and into the early part of next season, because the work to maintain that ground as it gradually sinks back where they've dug it up, you'll have a 6-inch deep trench if you don't do anything with it. So, let's why spoil people's hard work when they're not getting paid for it and the utilities are. So that's my thought. So however you want to put that into words, although we voiced our opinion here now, perhaps they should see this piece of the actual fact, that might be a recommendation that they instruct the utilities to actually have a look at this piece of the meeting so they know our feelings, and John's point as well. All right, thank you. So, in principle, it's a yes with the aforementioned bits and bobs that Emma's got a record of, yeah? Thanks.
Thank you. Leading on to Hazelfield Parish Council. They'd like to have a survey carried out on the local watercourse and also the ponds involved to identify any protected species that are present and also provide habitat enhancement and management recommendations. This will then feed into the neighbourhood plan, which is currently being undertaken. The watercourse that is there is spring-fed, and the total length of the stream that needs surveying is around 620 metres. They're particularly interested to know if there are still great crested newts in the 5 ponds that are being surveyed. They'll use a management, obviously a consultancy firm to do this work. Total costs are £2,032 and £1,016, which is half of, has been requested from the community chest. The parish council will be funding the rest, the remaining funds. We have support from Councillor Ariel Khan and Councillor Lisa Redrup. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. Colleagues?
I notice in the report that they say that 5 ponds will be surveyed subject to landowner permission. Well, I think we should get that landowner permission before the money's released, frankly, because I know you know what it can be. It can run into problems with landowner permission.
Councillor Remington?
It's a case of be careful what you wish for. I think Swavesey has been identified as the great crested newt kingdom of the whole of the country. And it can be a little bit of a problem when you want to do something. Yeah.
Can I suggest that we agree the fund, but that they draw it down as and when it's needed, when they get permission? So we don't give them the money, they get permission, and then we'll give them the money for doing that particular pond.
As long as that's not too onerous administratively, that sounds like a pragmatic solution.
Thank you. Right, in that case, then are we in agreement with that suggestion? You okay, Emma? Thanks.
Thank you. Page 20, that's the Willingham Action Group, or WAG as it's known. They're responsible for implementing the actions set out in the Willingham Parish Plan. The group started in 2010 and they currently have 23 members. So just to make you aware, there's a number of green spaces in Willingham. That includes a green, a nature reserve and some green areas around the sheltered housing area. They have a nature reserve, like I said. The northern half of this is managed as a wildflower meadow. The southern half is largely untouched, sort of scrub land. And there's also 4 small ponds, each differing in size and depth. These were created by Cambridgeshire Acre as part of a National Lottery funded scheme to enhance the habitat along the Old West River Corridor. And the Willingham Action Group would like to improve the biodiversity around these ponds by encouraging a range of wetland and aquatic native plants, and also by creating a butterfly bank. There's also a few other improvements that we'd like to do as part of the project, and that would include installing some seats and some picnic tables, purchasing a wildlife camera and also a signboard. Got some pictures there so you can kind of see the locations as well. The areas to be planted are owned by the Willingham Parish Council and also South Cambs District Council, and they're freely accessible to all. Total costs are £2,306.75, and £2,000 has been requested from the community chest. There's a long list there, plants and various items. They've also received funding from the Co-op Community Fund for £250. Willingham Action Group themselves are putting forward £50, and the Parish Council are putting forward £50 as well. And the Willingham Action Group are also providing volunteers as well. And just so you know, they also received £950 from our tenant community grant, and that was for planting around the warden controlled accommodation in April of this year. That was also for 2 teak benches and various bulbs and plants. They initially applied to us through the community chest, but I diverted them to that grant because I thought that was probably a better use of obviously the funding. We have support from our climate and environment team, parish council obviously, and councillors Bill Handley and Dan Lentil. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma. I know Bill said he wasn't a wag at the start, so would you like to speak to this first, like Sue did, because it's your page?
Yeah, I've got no connection whatsoever with Willingham Action Group. I have to say, though, that they are a fantastic group of people. They've done a huge amount for the community in Willingham. Very progressive, environmentally aware, and the village is better for their activities. So I would strongly support this, if I'm allowed to.
You are, thank you. A question for Emma. Given what Councillor Hanley's just said, with the fact they do such a fantastic amount of work within the community, is there any other money that the parish council have put forward to most of these projects, or even listed over time? I mean, if they put stuff in over the last year or two, then that's fine, but it'd be nice if they listed it, because I kind of thought 50 quid was a little on the low side, shall we say, given that the community is doing their work, so to speak. So it was just knowing what other parishes can put in as well it is fractionally low. I just wondered if I'd missed something in the notes. Perhaps we could gently, very gently, mention that. That would be nice. Anybody else like to speak? Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can I ask? It's obviously in the report. It talks about the northern half of the nature reserve is managed as a wildlife meadow. It's great because these need management, but there's no explanation as to how they're going to turn what's obviously scrub into the meadow. They've given us a list of the various seeds they want to purchase. There's no mention of the work that's involved in preparing that to be a meadow, a wildlife meadow. Now, who's going to pick up the cost of that? Because it's not mentioned at all in this report.
I mean, that could be the parish council, in which case that's a substantial contribution, I would imagine. Would you have any?
Well,
sorry, Bill. Emma. No, big. I'm looking over you. It's my eyes. Have you got any information that you might be able to throw on John's point?
I think looking at it, I mentioned that a lot of the it's the areas around the ponds as well, and those are the ones that got funding from the Cambridgeshire Acre. So those are like the man-made sort of ponds that they want to improve the biodiversity. I know that's just part of it. I don't know if they necessarily want to create actual wildflower meadow, whether they just want to sort of increase the biodiversity by planting these plants, and then obviously there's, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's though, Emma, a lot of the plants a lot of the wildlife meadow wildflower planting is meadow stuff. It's not about the pond. So you have to prepare the ground to do this planting, but there's nothing mentioned, even in their plan. They talk about the pond, but they don't talk about what they describe as scrubland. How's the scrubland going to be prepared? And who's going to do that? And where's the money for that coming from?
Bill might be able to help us then, John.
Well, I can't answer for WAG, to be perfectly honest. It would be wrong for me to try and do that. All I'll say, and it's a fair point Councillor Williams raises, it's a fair point, and I think it's a question that needs to be asked. But all I will say is that Willingham Action Group do have a lot of support, a lot of boots on the ground, if you like, to help with these projects, all doing it voluntarily. So there may be some of the cost, but they'll be offset by the activities. But it is a fair question, and it's one that deserves an answer.
Could I ask if Emma goes back and asks that, and obviously if we get a satisfactory answer, I'm quite happy. But if there isn't, if there's no plan to do this, I mean, to be honest, the sowing this on scrub land is not going to deliver what they want, and it would be just a waste of money.
The scrub land, Bill, is it weed high, is it, or is it just on sort of later lawn, or what?
I haven't seen the land recently, so I can't answer that. I think you've got to talk to WAG, otherwise I might give an answer which is inaccurate.
Fair enough. Okay. I've got anything to say, Councillor Sanford?
Yeah, given the discussion we had about Swavesey and the broadband people digging up the pavements, are we aware of any work going on in Willingham that might destroy the planting shortly after it's been put in place?
Chair, I can answer that. I think every village is having some disruption or other at the moment, whether it's gas or fibre. Work in Willingham seems to have been going on for a long time. The roads have been closed several times, and it's caused some consternation with local residents. So I can't give you a proper answer, but I suspect a lot of the work has already been done in Willingham, to be honest.
And perhaps we're getting doing the digging that they'll make good any damage they do. I think that's what we settled on for Swavesey, so we do that.
Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd be happy if we deferred this and we got some answers to those questions, and then it comes back at the next meeting. I mean, it's not important they do it now anyway. It's not the right time of year to be doing this sowing, so we've got time to find out exactly what's involved.
I'm assuming we're all happy with that, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you. No dissent in the room. Perfect. Okay, thanks. And Emma's looking smug, so it must be the last one then. That's good. Right, so that's really caught me on the hop there. Thank you very much, Emma. All right, hang on. I'm just being. Oh, hang on a minute. Should we just look a bit smug? Over to you, Emma, please, for the grants criteria.
Right, thank you, Chair. So part of the grants paper this month was to request a criteria change. And this is specifically for applications for the funding of village fetes and fundraising events, be it one-off or regular. I think in light of some of the recent applications that we've had quite a number of applications, but we're sort of making a sort of request to change it, to exclude these applications. So I think if I could perhaps get some comments on that and your thoughts, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, so colleagues, page 5 of the agenda, PAC, Community Chest Grant Funding, it's the very first page. It's section 3, paragraph 3. As Emma's just highlighted, what raised the issue on this, was Melbourne's application. So I hang my head in shame. So sorry for the rest of South Cambs, but this is coming like a steam train now. So we need to try and alter the criteria a little bit to protect the fund a little bit more. Otherwise, we'd have a run on the fund with fetes and what have you. So, how would you like to approach this, Emma? In all fairness, is it just those recommendations there, you know, and just say we'll work on that? Would it be an officer working on it and just run it past us and John?
Yeah, I mean, we can implement the changes quite easily to the criteria. It's not a problem.
So the question to my colleagues is, are we in agreement that we do that, or do you have serious misgivings or anything like that? I think we saw the consternation that the Melbourne application caused, and the worry that we would have used up all of our money in the first month. So I think this is a prudent move, I think, and this is a movable feast. I think it's always been a movable feast. It's something we hadn't seen or thought or heard of pops up in a loophole, so to speak, that we can close the loophole a fraction. So if you're happy with Emma and the officer team to come up with the route forward, which then she'll put towards us and John, and ultimately John, we'll run with that then, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a thank you there.
Yes, Chair, that's something that Councillor Williams can take the decision on. It's not one for Cabinet or anything. It's just
I think it is, John. You can just, yeah. I mean, as far as we're concerned, it's knowing roughly what the changes are going to be, or knowing what the exact changes are going to be, and we work to that when we're in committee. So, Sarah, did you want anything other than what we just agreed?
So sorry, Chair, just to be clear, it's essentially within the criteria what cannot be funded. I'm assuming it would be something along the lines of village fetes and fundraising events. So it'd just be the inclusion of that.
Yeah, it's in the appendix.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking at Emma. Is everything done, Emma? Right, so okay, that's fabulous. So we go over to part 2 of the afternoon's event, which is the Ben Jewett. Ben, agenda item number 6, which is the long-term health condition grant report. Thank you. Over to you, Ben.
Thank you, Chair. So, yeah, this report is to provide an end-of-year update and feedback on the long-term health condition grants that ran within 24-25, and also the proposal to run the grant scheme again in 2025 and 2026. So I trust that the report and corresponding appendices have been read and noted, but I just wish to provide a summary of the key points and share some of the successes from the grant last year. So £9,340 was awarded to 7 applicants, which is supporting activity classes and sessions that's helping participants with long-term health conditions ranging from sort of dementia, Parkinson's, depression, to name a few. This has led to 56 new participants, with 88 participants sort of regularly attending. There likely could be more as well, sort of regularly attending these sessions. Those participants that have attended have sort of mentioned how it can help to manage their conditions that they are currently experiencing, where they've seen physical, mental and social benefits. I think it's also given that sort of sense of belonging for a lot of these participants, and that sort of sustainability of those sessions has helped to kind of keep their morale high. One participant did actually state that following these classes, myself and others just feel that little bit better in ourselves, which I think is sort of a nice thing to hear, really. A couple of things to note from the grant scheme last year is that £1,000 of funding was returned by one of the applicants, as well as High Friends providing their proposal for how the remaining £800 that they have and how they want to spend it on equipment, cushions for participant comfort, and also acquiring a new neurophysio specialist, which would attend bi-weekly, which will help to enhance the classes and sort of progress those classes for a more specialised support if those proposals are agreed. So yeah, just following the success of this grant, proposal to repeat the grant in 2025-2026 using the £10,000 of the already allocated and available physical activity budget. So I'd appreciate if members could provide their recommendations to point 4A and 4B, and also point 5 around repeating the grant in 2025-26. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Colleagues, comments? Councillor Williams?
Yeah, if there's no comment from the committee. I'm a bit puzzled by Let's Run Girls. I mean, there must have been some benefit. And I'm a bit, unhappy about people not making much effort to apply for a grant. And this seems to be a classic example where they haven't actually, given us any benefits. There must have been benefits. I mean, I could think of a few, mental and physical benefits of this. And it would have been nice to know how many actually participated in the runs. So, I'm a bit disappointed there. They don't seem to have made an awful lot of effort in telling us what they did, in the hope that they're going to get some more money this year to continue doing what they're doing. But I know, you can only put down, Ben, what you're told. But it would have been nice to have known a bit more about the benefits of our funding of this particular group.
I can hopefully provide a bit more for you if that helps. So yeah, the funding they received helped to train 3 new leaders, which has helped to sort of the sustainability of those sessions that they have. And they do have 7 runs within the district, within South Cambridgeshire. Yeah, I do agree though that perhaps a bit more information around some of these benefits would have been helpful to sort of know about. But certainly, yeah, from my understanding and what I've seen is that they are well attended and continue to be well attended, which perhaps would be an implication that those are enjoying it. But as you say, maybe we don't have as much of the physical and mental benefits, which I could perhaps try and get more of that information if required.
I think it would be of benefit. When's the next round of funding for this? Can you remind me?
We're looking to in July to run again. To go live in July.
So does that come back to here for the nod?
Yes, it would do in hope in August to come back with the report on that.
Right, that's perfect then. So based on what John said, it would be really nice if, it doesn't have to be masses of detail, but it is nice to see if there's been a benefit and have they welcomed that benefit, if you like, and it has done them some good and they feel better for it, so to speak. There's lots of anecdotal evidence on the news and what have you, and programs and the likes of documentary programs where this sort of stuff does have a benefit. But it would be nice for the stuff that we put money to, their money, if they could then, as you say, just come back with a little bit of detail and just say it's great. Not expecting people to turn up here and run around the chamber and go, it was great. No, not that, just a few lines. From the organisers, the lead members would be fine. I think that they can add that detail, can't they? I think that'd be fine. So then that can come to the next committee, and if you wouldn't mind, if that can be in that presentation, either for the fund to be authorised or whichever, as long as you've got the information in the room, that'd be great. You happy with that, John? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, as I say, there's some information here. They do 7 runs in 7 villages, but how many people participate in these runs? We don't really know, do we? And as I say, it would be, it don't have to. It can be a general thing. You don't have to identify individuals, but it would be nice to know, what effects this has had on the lives of those that have taken part.
Should we bring inter-village rivalry in as well? Shall we say which village was the best?
It's fair comment from Councillor Williams. In fact, it says the funding was used for the training of new volunteers to lead runs. Well, not too difficult to say, well, the new volunteers have led X number of people to be doing the running. It won't, you can understand, I can understand what's going on here. These are people who want to run and they don't want to sit behind a computer and and write things. But it's a point we need to make to them. Look, you know, we've got to show the public, our public, what their money is being spent on, and they've got to justify it. So I think it's not too much to ask them.
Colleagues, anybody else? Peter, Sunita? Oh, sorry, Sue, and then Peter.
Just to say that I'm aware that in Fen Drayton, whenever I go to a parish council meeting, there are at least 6, sometimes 10 ladies running and around the parish council meeting, which is great. No, just outside the window, chatting and leaning on the window to do their stretches.
Councillor Sanford?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a little bit concerned with the My Yoga scheme that returned all the funding due to personal circumstances. Whether there's any lessons that can be learned, for example, if the application comes from one individual, should we probe a little more deeply than if it's a multi-person organisation? Obviously, there's a bit of a concern that if that £1,000 sat in their personal bank account for 11 months, it wasn't available to other schemes. So I'm sort of asking the question in general, whether there's something we can learn from that.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And I wonder, looking at you, John, and Ben, and potentially Emma as well, that where we're looking at the criteria for the community chest and what have you, when it comes to fates and stuff like that, the ones that can knock us for 6, is this also something that we ought to think about? It's lovely that someone thinks of a group to do something. It usually starts off with one person's trials or tribulations, but there's normally a friend or someone that would help out with that process. So the work can go on. If this is from personal circumstances, then exactly. They may have been unwell or something, they couldn't do it. And that's just, you know, life, so to speak. But is there something that we should look at here? I don't want to stifle the enthusiasm and the thought process, but as Pete said, it's sat in someone's account, for a private account, for 11 months. So we didn't even get the benefit of the interest. So, Bill.
Question for Ben. I mean, do we insist on a fully constituted group that we give the money to? If you just give it to an individual who, for whatever reason, can't spend the money, I mean, at least this money's been returned. But there is, if you're not careful, there is scope for it not to be returned, if you're saying what I'm saying. I think it needs to be a constituted group, really.
I've got to Ben. Ben, this money, can you remind us where it comes from? Is it from our coffers, and is something that or has this come down the pipe from government? Has it got set criteria that we can't meddle with, etc.?
Well, the physical activity budget is it's a separate budget to the Healthy You budget that is typically used around the district. So it's to be honest, unfortunately I can't exactly name where that physical activity budget comes from. But I guess to answer some of the questions previously, officers that will sort of look at the applications and sort of matching that to criteria, we do look at those organisations or voluntary support groups, etc., that are sort of well established, if possible. And I guess in this instance with the menopause yoga, we did ask questions about when they were looking to do their training and get their certification for the menopause yoga. I think, unfortunately, sometimes with these certifications, there's a slight constraint of when they are, because there might not be loads of dates or many dates, to complete that training. And I think, unfortunately, when the training happened, it didn't align well with some personal circumstances in this applicant's life. So, but I think it could be worthwhile trying to understand when they're looking to book onto in this instance, when they're looking to book onto a training or workshop, so that at least then we have a date of when they're looking to do it and can hopefully eradicate this issue coming up again.
Thank you. You said about Healthy You. If that's either one or the other or a combination of the NHS and county, I thought. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's the Healthy You budget is from sort of public health, and then that's sort of triage, if you will, within the different districts. Yeah. So, sorry, this grant isn't from that Healthy You budget, just to make that clear.
Right, Councillor Williams.
Yeah, can I say, I mean, in the executive summary, the first paragraph, it talks about that this money was allocated from the physical activity budget to voluntary, community and social enterprises, private sector organisations and leisure centre groups offering physical activity programmes. So it's clear it's not meant for individuals. So I don't know if that particular person was a group or a member of an organisation, which is how they qualified. But clearly, you know, from what I can see in the first paragraph, we already have in place a criteria which says that it should only be available to organisations or leisure centre groups. So I don't. Maybe when we invite applications, we make that clear that individuals are not eligible unless they're working on behalf of a leisure centre, in which case the leisure centre is in effect the organisation used. Otherwise, as an individual, then they don't qualify.
I think this is what we were driving at. So you're the guy in the hot seat, Ben. Sorry about this, fella. So would you? No. But
for this year's grants, we need to make it quite clear that these grants are only available to organisations, social enterprise sector organisations, and leisure centres.
I think what I was getting at was that if we can ask Ben for this next round that comes up to make sure the criteria that is published says that and is very clear, even if we have to repeat ourselves by cut and pasting the paragraph again where people sit first, whatever, that's first here, right? Yeah, I think Pete Sanford brought up a really, it's opened up the can of worms basically. So thank you. No, it's right because we have to do due diligence, don't we? So yeah, if you wouldn't mind just having a check on that and you could just give us a quick note to reassure John, notably, and I know obviously the rest of us, that'd be really lovely. Yeah. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, that's fine.
And sorry about the hard time, but it's just
that's okay.
Emma sailed through, and we thought, well, we have to pick on someone, and you were it. So,
not a problem. No,
yeah, if you brought a friend, it could have been another person. See, but you came on your own. Okay. Always think ahead. Right. Cheers. Right. Is there anything more from you, Ben, or have you had enough of us?
Well, I think it's just if a recommendation about 4B, which is around the high friends, and whether we're happy with the use of the breakdown of what he wishes or they wish to use on the £800, and then also point 5, which is around repeating the grant for next year, 2025 to 26.
So before I go to my colleagues, I'm going to look at John. Have you got any particular advice, John, you would like to have us think about before we do the recommendations to you? Okay, right, so colleagues, point 4, paragraph 4, under the recommendations, for A is just to note the report's outcomes and the grant scheme, so we've done that, thank you, Ben, that's lovely. Point B, 4B, is to make the recommendation lead member for resources with regards to the £800 underspend from High Friends. So, yeah, so page 40, I've got to go back to it to read it. Thanks. So this is the recommendation. The current underspending of £800 will go towards the cost of, number one, a new, I knew I was never say that, Boccia,
Boccia, I believe.
Boccia, thank you, Boccia set and exercise balls of £225. Number two, the purchase and raised cushions to improve the comfort of those attending the two classes, that's 50 quid. And number three, engage in the service of a neurophysio to attend a specialist class for an hour bi-weekly to support the work of the possibility instructors of £525. I think we've had stuff from High Friends before, and I've dealt with High Friends. They are a terrific organisation. They really are. They do such a lot of good work. So from a personal point of view, I don't have any problem with this, but I'm looking at my colleagues. If anyone has a problem, please sing out, or I'll assume that we're all comfortable with it to recommend that to John.
Yeah.
That sounds like a recommendation to me then, thank you. And the fifth one is to further recommend, based on the success of the grant last year, that £10,000, that's including the £1,000 return from 24-25, is ring-fenced for the allocated budget of physical activity in the 25-26, and to repeat the grant. This year, applications will be brought to the GAC in August for recommendations to be made to the lead member for resource. So again, are we comfortable with that? Or
Yep.
That's a yes. Bill, you're looking perplexed, or is that your normal resting face? Bill, yeah. Are you happy? Good, that's fine then. We are all happy, so we'll make that recommendation as well then, Ben. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about the hard time. As I said, you know, come prepared next time. Bring a friend. Try and slope shoulder it. It's always best. Right, thank you very much. That concludes today's business. So first of all, I'd like to thank Ben and Emma for their presentations and what have you. Not so much Ben, you didn't do quite as good a job as Emma, but hey, what the hell. Right. And then you've got Andy and Sarah for the Dem Services for running the meeting and what have you. To John for being the resource lead member, and to you other guys for being the committee. And of course, it should not go without saying, there's several hundred, I think, today, members of the public watching this grant committee. As always, my thanks to you. Have a very safe afternoon and a lovely weekend, and goodbye.